Good morning and a very warm welcome to EIT Health Catapult semi-finals. My name is Alison Munro and it is my pleasure to host our prestigious event. And to everybody who's joining us on the call today, health professionals, academics, innovators, startups, entrepreneurs, whoever you are from across Europe and around the world, you are very, very welcome to join us and thank you for being with us. Over the last 2 days, we have met and today we are going to meet the very best, the best of European health startups today. Catapult is an outstanding programme aiming to boost the development of the most promising European startups today in healthcare, from medtech, biotech and digital health. They have a promising and direct level of training and high competition. And 40 disruptive startups have been working extremely hard over the last months and also receiving, of course, very high level training in areas like business modelling, investment strategies, deal negotiations and pitch training. We are all very eager to meet them and we express our congratulations to them on reaching this stage of the semi-finals in Catapult. And this is a really amazing accomplishment. So well done. Of course, these semi-finals give us a unique opportunity to have access to these top level startups who are also very keen to meet people, to make contacts and to start collaborations to take their next steps forward. Our inspiring journey began on Wednesday and it continued yesterday, and of course it continues today, and we are very happy to have you with us and we wish you a fantastic time. On Wednesday it was biotech, yesterday on Thursday it was medtech, and today it's digital, and we are going to meet the 12 top startups in digital health in Europe today. Now, each participant, when they pitch, they will have a very strict timing to respect. 5 minutes for pitch and 5 minutes with questions and answers with our international jury. The jury will then make their marks and notes about that pitch at the end of each pitch. We will also have today 4 inspiring expert insights throughout the day, giving us very, very interesting insights into what is going on in healthcare innovation today. And of course, there will also be multiple opportunities for breaks and matchmaking and networking between everybody, between delegates, startups, investors. The opportunities for networking sessions this afternoon will also be at around 2:30 until 4 o'clock. This, of course, is Central European time. That will be followed later on by a break. And then, of course, the magic moment at 5 o'clock when we have the awards ceremony. In that moment, of course, we will discover who, out of the 12 startups in digital health, who will be going through to the finals later in Stockholm 2022. So, before we meet our jury, let's look at our partners and to the wonderful teams at all of our partners, our dear friends at EIT Health, Cap Digital, Medical Valley and beyond. And of course, we also wish to say a huge thanks to this year's sponsors who have made not only the event of Catapult possible, but also today and with their amazing, prestigious prizes later. First of all, AstraZeneca, Amazon Web Services, EG Technology, Luciadas, Merck, McDermott, Will and Emery, and Nasdaq. Thank you so much for being our sponsors. And now it is a pleasure to welcome our international jury panel. Our panel, of course, has a vast experience in renowned institutions, and they have wide expertise in venture capital, equity investment, and of course the technical sector. They are, let's meet them one by one, Susie Ruff, founder of Ruff Company, Natalie Virag, responsible for strategic partnership programs at Medtronic, Diane Lejeune, PMV at Business Manager, MedTech and eHealth, Life Sciences and Care Venture Capital, Sonia Wilkins, Economic Development Agency, Mannheim City Council, Tomasz Jaworski, Director of Digital Transformation for the Public Sector at Microsoft, and Catherine Boule, Managing Partner at Carista. And to complete our jury, Miguel Angel Amanjol, Head of Big Data Department at the Regional Ministry of Health of Southern Spain. Thank you so much to all our jury for being here, and we hope you have a wonderful day and you enjoy meeting all our startups. A few practical words, words about practicalities, of course, that we are broadcasting on live. So, of course, if you want to refresh the page, if you lose the current live feed, and if you want optimum viewing, of course, click on the bottom corner to be able to have full screen. If you want to pause and play, just click. And if you want to optimize your working network opportunities this afternoon, then of course it's best to use Chrome browser, that Google Chrome browser for all of your calls. And if you want to express your thoughts on social network, share photos, whatever, please go to #EITH Catapult. There's still time to book your meetings. I am now very happy to be able to hand over to continue our day and to introduce the next sequence, our EIT Health Director of Business Creation, Kurt Holler. Good morning, Kurt. It's lovely to see you this morning.
Good morning, Alison. Great to see you again.
We're having another very exciting day ahead of us.
Indeed. Yeah, we already spent the last 2 days together, right? With the whole community, all the listening here. And now we are very much looking forward to the last day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I hand over to you because I know we have an exciting guest.
Thank you. Thank you, Alison. So, hello everyone out there. Good morning. Happy that you made it at 9 o'clock this morning on the third day. It has been really a busy time. We have started 2 days ago on Wednesday with one of the most exciting success stories that we had during the last 12 months. You might remember the second winner of the biotech finals last year, Phargomate, just got acquired recently by BioNTech. Of course, everyone knows BioNTech because they contributed a lot with their vaccine in the current pandemics. And having an additional topic within BioNTech, which is fighting bacteria and antibiotics resistant bacteria. That's a super successful contribution and addition to BioNTech, and we are super proud that EIT Health was able to support the company that will now be in the center, in the focus of that future work. We had an interview with Holger as a representative from BioNTech and with Alexander Belcredi, one of the two co-founders of Phargomate. And that has set the tone from my perspective for these 3 days. So the companies that we have in the Health Catapult, there certainly will be one top company that we will celebrate as a success stories, hopefully even more than one company in the upcoming 12 months. Now, what are we talking about? Today we have 12 digital health companies, and we are selecting, like in the other 2 days, the 7 companies that will be able to proceed to our funnels. The funnels have been postponed a bit, so we have postponed them into May 24th and 25th, in order to make them happen in person. So we want to have a live event again after a very successful but still online summit last year. We decided to postpone them to May, and that's also the reason why now the semifinals are not in autumn but in December, basically in those days where we usually had the finals. But before we look into the Health Catapult, I would like to give you a couple of numbers about EIT Health. And in order to do so, I took a couple of screenshots a few days ago. And these screenshots of our startup platform, startups.eithealth.eu, show you very well what we actually did and succeeded in the last years. So the first number I'd like to point out is the number of startups that we have supported in total. That is more than 1,000 companies, quite an impressive number. The second point I would like to focus on is the countries, the regions that we cover. If you look to the map on the right, you can see that we basically cover every European country. So that's also a great success story, that it is not just focusing on a few countries. We are a truly European organization supporting companies and startups everywhere in Europe. And the last thing I'd like to point out is the bottom left. That's a chart that shows you the investments attracted by those companies that we have supported. And you can see that in the last 3 years, we have been actually very successful. So our EIT Health supported companies have attracted more than 300 million euro per year in total. And this year, 2021, is certainly the most successful one, because there we had some very specific large rounds. So you can see whereas we usually touched upon the 300 million euro or exceeded the 300 million euro, we now even exceeded the 600 million euro mark significantly. And maybe in the last couple of weeks of this year, it might get even more. Also, the data usually are lagging a bit behind on the platform. The second slide I'd like to show you is the overall valuation of all the companies that we have supported. And there's two interesting things. On the one hand, of course, we have supported more and more companies over the years, and therefore the overall valuation of those companies has increased. But also in general, we could see in Europe that the overall valuation of European digital health companies has doubled every other year. And that's a tendency that we even exceeded within our EIT Health portfolio. The second highlight I'd like to point out is that the light red bar, that shows the companies that have been created within the last 5 years. So basically within the existence of EIT Health. And that shows that most of the companies that contribute to that high overall valuation have been founded only within the last 5 years. So that's a great engagement and a great signal to all the companies that maybe also pitched today that have been created only in the last couple of years. They are set up for success. So you don't have to have your company run for 10 or 15 years until you get successful. That can happen rather quickly. Just to point out here a few companies, Cert Health is a company that we have supported rather early stage. Now it's the first European health unicorn within the EIT Health portfolio. Very strong company. Then Arkin is a company that we have supported in our gold track. And looking to Sparing Vision and Diabeloop, they are well known from the Health Catapult. We will see Sparing Vision also in a second. Catapult, just a few numbers about the EIT Health Catapult. As you know, the process is very intense. All the companies listening now know what they went through. You first have to apply in a written application. Then after that, you go into the top companies from the written evaluation are invited to pitch, usually in person. Now that's happened online, of course, to pitch in front of a jury. And then only the top two per category, biotech, medtech, or digital health, are invited to proceed to the semifinals. And that's where we are today. In order to get prepared for the semifinals properly, the startups get we call it super mentor. So they get that super mentoring to really train and exercise not only their pitch, but also validate and prove their business model. So to get the full investor story right, so that investors really trust and get all the information that they need after having heard the pitch of the startup. And then only the top 3 of each category will be invited to pitch on the main stage in the plenary session at our annual summit that will be held now again in person. That's at least our plan so far, in Stockholm in May. But also the 4 runners up will be invited to pitch at the summit, not in the plenary session, but still at a big stage. So for 7 companies out of the 12 that are pitching today, we will have very good news at the end of this session. Now, looking into a few numbers of the Catapult exists now since 6 years. We have supported 231 companies that made it into the semifinals and beyond through our mentoring, through our super mentoring. So that's the companies that we really work very closely with. Those companies have raised more than 400 million euro. And that's also due to the fact that among the more than 3,500 participants, visitors that we had in our semifinals and finals, we had more than 500 investors included. 2 winners already got acquired by other large companies. And the last number I'd like to highlight as well, our participants come from 47 countries. So a truly international competition. On the picture, you see Florence. She was president of Sparing Vision back then. And Sparing Vision, after pitching and winning our biotech finals in 2019, was able to then win or to get in, attract an investment of 44 million euros. So congratulations again to Florence and their team. Was really a great success, and kind of the similar thing that the success story that we explained last year at the semifinals, and now this year we are happy to announce the great success of Phagomate. I already told you that we opened this session on Wednesday, this whole series on Wednesday, together with Alexander Balkredi to celebrate his success. And now, without further ado, I'd like to invite our guest speaker for the opening. Keith Sequeira is, I would already call him a friend, as we have interacted a lot in the last couple of years. We have met several times in person, and he is really one of the super reliable people. Once you get an agreement, he really helps you wherever he can. He is head of unit at the EISME, that's the European Innovation Council and SME Executive Agency. That's a very new institution, and there he is responsible especially for the EIC board and strategy, and also the feedback to policy. So Keith, would be delighted to hear a bit more about EIC's mission and vision. But before starting that, how is it in Brussels? How is the situation? How are you doing?
Nice words. So I'm very well. Can I just check you can hear me okay?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Great. Great. Great pleasure to be here this morning. I'm very, very, very happy to be here. Super.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we just touched on the EIC and ESME. What's the mission and vision of the organization that you're representing?
Yeah, I mean, so the European Innovation Council is very new. We launched in March, but of course we've been running in pilot mode for the last few years. So we're not starting from scratch. And the mission is very simple. It's to identify, develop, and scale up disruptive and breakthrough innovations in Europe. So we're covering all fields of technology, but a lot of our innovations that we're supporting are in the health area because it's so important for disruptive breakthrough innovations. I think you mentioned earlier Sword Health. I think that's a great example. It was actually the first Portuguese startup that we supported in the EIC pilot and reached unicorn status with a valuation round that put it at 2 billion. So I think that's great. I mean, what we're really focusing on now is what we see as kind of two valleys of death. One is how you get from the research proof of concept in the laboratory into a viable business proposition. And the second is the scale up for high risk deep tech companies, where getting that kind of finance from the private sector alone is very difficult. So we launched this year. Since April, we funded our first 65 companies, of which many in health, and I know quite a few came from Kick Health as well. In October this year, we're going to have our next funding round announced in a couple of weeks' time. So we're very excited. We have 10 billion euros for the next 7 years. And together with the EIT, in this new innovation pillar of Horizon, I think this is unprecedented level of commitment, support, ambition for innovation in Europe.
Thank you. Yeah, talking about the synergies between those two organizations. So you spoke about the 10 billion euro. That's an impressive amount of funding that goes to the companies. On top, you also have the blended financing. EIT, Health, and all the other kicks. We have basically the access to the network. We don't have these large investment volumes to the companies, but we can help leverage access to the relevant stakeholders, and especially in the healthcare sector. If you talk about reimbursement, a super fragmented reimbursement system in Europe, if you talk about regulatory affairs, that's something where you just need support by not only mentors and coaches, but also in order to get into the market, you need partnership with large institutions, and that's why I think we have an amazing synergy. Talking about the fast track that we have established, and it's really a great success story, and that's what I also meant, Keith, when I introduced you as a very reliable person. You really contributed personally to make this happen, so that we ensure that top companies from EIT Health and the other kicks find their way into EIC. So what's the fast track exactly, and what was your reason to create that fast track?
So the fast track, I think, is completely novel in European funding, because the way it's worked up until now is that we've all worked in isolation. So when a company comes to us, we have no idea if it's been supported by you, and if it's been supported by you in the Kick Health, we don't know whether you thought it was a great company or whether you thought it was problematic. So this is really a different level of, a very practical way of getting the collaboration. And the way it works is that in the EIC Accelerator now we have a phased approach. We have a first stage, which is to look at the idea screening and really to see, is a company fitting the profile of the EIC? So is it very high risk innovation, very novel? Is it scalable? Has it kind of got the risk profile that requires the public support? And up until now, we've been taking that judgment by ourselves. I mean, applications have come to Brussels and we've sent it to experts to make that view. What the fast track is doing is to say, in Kick Health to make this judgment for companies and startups that you're already supporting. So we rely on your judgment to say, does this company fit the profile of the European Innovation Council? And if so, there's no need for us to check that again. That would be an administrative overhead. That would be additional bureaucracy. That would not make sense. So we trust you, and we're asking you in the Kick Health to identify those companies that you think meet the profile of the European Innovation Council. And when you tell us these, we will invite them to the final stage to prepare a full proposal to come for our interviews and our funding round. So I think it's a great, very practical way that we are working together. And I think we've gone from kind of ad hoc discussions to really systematic collaboration. I think there's lots more we can do, but this is a great start. And we're looking forward to receive the fast track companies from Kick Health.
Thank you. Yeah, and I can announce that we have now closed the first fast track selection, and among the 20 companies in total that we agreed with EIC to proceed in the first fast track, we have, and that's interesting now to hear for all the companies in the Health Catapult. We have 8 Health Catapult winners from the previous years that are part of that fast track. So that's actually the easiest way to get into EIC is by just winning the Health Catapult and then going the fast track to EIC. I'd also like to briefly touch on the pilot that we run together, because that's interestingly exactly the other way around. So whereas in the fast track companies move into EIC, we also have a pilot running together where EIC supported and funded companies enter into the EIT Health network. And that might be very early stage companies from the Pathfinder in our boot camps, so where they really get connected to our network, but it's also utilizing our Bridgehead program where we support companies to enter new markets when they have their product already up and running and ready for distribution in their home country. So that is, and last but not least, also the gold check. And I mentioned Fargomed before. Also, S4DX, one of the top EIC companies in the past, has gone through our gold track. So we also support EIC companies to get into the gold track and to be presented to the expert council within the gold track. An amazing collaboration, I would say. So now for a vision for the future, Keith. How do you think, with everything that we do here, how well is Europe equipped to compete with the US? That's of course our eternal competitor, but also with other regions like Asia, specifically China. How well are we equipped to compete in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very positive. We held our first EIC summit last week in Brussels. I was at the Slush event in Finland earlier this week. And I think there's an incredible change going on in Europe. I mean, you look at the data on venture capital investments. You mentioned, Kurt, about the valuation of health tech startups in Europe. And we're moving to a period of, deep tech, we believe, is going to become increasingly important. Disruptive innovation is going to hit areas like health in ways that it simply hasn't done before. And Europe is potentially very well placed here. I mean, we have a great science base. And what is new now is that I think we have a whole generation that know how to build scalable businesses, which is something that was very much missing before in Europe compared with the US. But I mean, we're still very much behind on finance. You look at the data on venture capital, and I think we have a lot of work to do at European level to overcome the fragmentations between different regions, between countries. We've got great local ecosystems, but we really need a European level ecosystem as well. So I think it's hugely positive. I think there's a lot more to come, but a lot of work to do on our side, and really looking forward to actually increasing our collaboration with you, because we think this is going to help Europe overall tremendously.
Thank you. Thanks, Keith. And that's, I think, the perfect closing words for the session. With that, looking forward to our further collaboration with EIC and your teams. And with that, handing back to Alison.
Thank you so much, Kurt and Keith. It's very, very nice to start the day with such an exciting and inspiring and positive discussion. Now, how can elite sport possibly be a place to go to look for a model for building public health? And what is the star appearance that digital health has in all of that? Well, to answer that and to tell us much more, we are now going to listen to our first expert insight. We are going to meet the mentor and advisor, Dr. Laura Johnson.
Good morning, everyone. It is great to be here with you all at the semi-finals for the Digital Health Catapult event. Welcome, and how's everyone doing? I hope you're all doing good, and I hope everybody's had time to grab a coffee, a tea, or get their breakfast in order and come back and join me for this keynote. So it's going to be 15 minutes of hopefully light entertainment in the medical world. Title of the talk is Lessons from the Locker Room, and that's going to become very obvious in a couple of seconds. But first, let me do a quick "This is me." So you've heard about my introduction. You can read about it. I'm on LinkedIn. Everybody will know that I am in the medical tech industry. I have been for quite some time. And there, you can find out all about me. But if you actually really knew me, you would know that I have a second job, and I have had for quite some years. And my second job is that I am actually a sports and musculoskeletal therapist, and that means I spend half of my life actually working with athletes, and that's everything from your everyday weekend athlete through to professional level elite Olympic trial athletes. So I have these two jobs. I love them both, and I'm not giving up either of them. So I thought I would do today's keynote from the aspect of what I learn in the sports world and what that can teach us in everyday situations that would apply to you as digital health innovators more than anyone else. So I hope we're going to have some fun in the next 10 minutes blasting through the sports world. Let's start by taking a quick look at some of the clubs that we do get to work in when we're MSK therapists and physios. And we'll start with best in class. Why not? So welcome to the Welsh rugby team. This is the international rugby team, and this is their locker room when they're on tour. And it may be hard to believe that's a rugby locker room, but it is. And it is absolutely best in class, fabulous conditions to work as part of the medical team in these sporting environments. As you can imagine from the condition of this locker room that you see here, things are pretty luxurious. So money is not an object, resources are not an object. And essentially what we have is a medical team that is combined with a health and fitness team that is combined with the sports psychologist. And we are a multidisciplinary team that is there for the athletes all the time. They have constant access to us. And our job, our combined job, is to take care of the health and performance of those athletes and keep them world-class players. And we do that because we are a big team and we have lots and lots of resources available. And it's pretty cool what you can achieve, obviously, with athletes when you have those resources and you work in that environment. And a lot of it is to do with information sharing and having a huge context on every athlete about what's happening on the pitch, off the pitch, in their private lives, in their public lives, and putting that together in a constructive plan for those athletes. But let's be honest, that's not really what all sports clubs look like. And if we go down a level or two, we start to get more like everyday reality setting in. And this is the Australian Cricket Club team room. And you can see the locker room has now become the treatment room, has become the general hangout room, and the luxury has disappeared and a bit of sort of grit has set in. And this is where you start to see resources scaling down in the medical teams. And you're down now to maybe one lead physio plus an assistant physio, and maybe an MSK therapist like me coming in. We're not there full time. We might be only in 1 or 2 days of the week. Some of the better clubs a little bit more. And there's a definite separation starting to occur that the medical team is taking care of these injury issues in the athletes. And the strength and conditioning coach, if you have one, is then taking care of the other time, the performance time, the recovery time, the everything that's not injury time. And there's less and less overlap between us, and there's less and less opportunity to work closely and share information. And then we get down to the real grit of sport. And this is a job I've done for many, many years. I work with Adidas and the Adidas runners, and this is me at the finish line of the Berlin Marathon. And as you can see, this is now real bare bones medical care for athletes. And what happens in these conditions is you work alone, and it's a bit more like emergency style medical treatments, firefighting. We have, a very limited time. We have 10 to 15 minutes per athlete, and we have about 100 athletes queuing up at the end of our treatment table, ready to come in for the next treatment. And our sole job now, working alone, is basically assess the injury we have in front of us, deal with that injury, patch it as best you can, and get this athlete on the way to whoever else is going to help them, and start with the next athlete. And it's really starting to focus the medical team on the actual essential service that we can provide, which is injury management. And that's it. Not injury mitigation, not performance, not well-being. This is just hardcore injury management. And there's an English physio who works in the rugby teams, and he's very, very good physio back home. And he estimated that when you're working like this in sort of firefighting mode, he's probably making about a 1% impact on these players' performance in the season or over the years. Now, 1% impact is a terribly depressing number when you're in the mass sports arena. If you're working with Usain Bolt, which I don't, by the way, but if I was, and we could claim as the medical team we made a 1% improvement in performance, we'd all be given a pay rise. I mean, that's, world record breaking kind of level of performance. But let's be honest, in the actual mainstream sports, where the vast majority of athletes are, 1% is not a good percent. And the problem with only making a 1% impact on performance is you start to see another problem arising over the season and over the years, and this is injuries start reoccurring, and the actual performance of the athlete starts deteriorating, and they're not able to maintain a certain level of performance. And this is a problem not only for the athletes, as you can imagine, but also for the club, right? Now, the club has a real interest in the injury lists, and that is because a lot of the investors are looking at the injury list and the performance of players as a sort of critical metric. When they see these injury lists constantly coming in every season, they start putting pressure on the management. The management start putting pressure on the medical team, and the medical team are sort of holding their hands up going, well, what do you want us to do about it given the resources we have and the time we have with the players? We're here to fix the injuries. We fix the injuries. We can't stop them happening again. So they had to come up with a solution. And interestingly, the reason we're having this talk today is because they did come up with a solution. And this solution is pretty neat. Now, if you're elite level sports again, the answer is throw money at it, okay? Just buy more medical staff, and that's great. Then your players have, again, this world-class level medical team, complete structure around them to take care of them. But like I say, most clubs don't have that money. They don't have those resources. So many clubs decided, okay, well, if the medical team isn't the resource here, then just tell the players to get in the gym more often. Bulk up, get stronger, so when you get hit, you don't go down as fast. And it turns out that can work, but only in limited situations, maybe with the rugby teams, but it's not appropriate for every athlete. And it's certainly not an answer to long-term injury management. It actually doesn't, strength doesn't equate to injuries. So what do you do when you don't have resources and you can't send everybody to the gym as the answer? Well, it turns out you do what a lot of us, or very good managers in business do, and that is you delegate. Now, this is a really neat solution for a couple of nuanced reasons that are important here. You need to delegate responsibility. So there's a massive task, and it's called performance of the players. And that involves both managing injuries when they happen, but also managing the resilience of the players. And resilience is basically their ability to withstand injury or prevent this from happening, mitigate injuries, right? And the more resilient your players, the less injuries you see. The medical team can only take care of the injuries, given the resources you have. So the question is, who's taking care of resilience of players? And again, look at what you've got. Look at the resources. In any club environment where you work, where you have more players than physios, you're going to have to give the task back to the players. And there's another reason to give it back to the players, is because they know themselves, they are the best judge of how resilient they need to be, and specifically what type of resilience they need. They know how they get hit in the game. They know how they go down. They know what their wear and tear is. We need to give responsibility back to the players to build up this resilience in themselves. And it's not by going to the gym. What clubs did is actually give athletes tools. They came up with self-screening, self-assessment tools that players can use completely autonomously, right? They don't need the medical team to do this, which is the critical point. And the idea here is they come in preseason and they do a screening test and they get a baseline level of fitness and resilience. And their aim in the season now is to maintain that, or ideally extend it. And they come in and they do regular self-assessments. They check against baseline. They're taught how to do some basic self-correcting exercises to get back on baseline. And they can always use the medical team if they need to, but it's not the main point of this exercise. And the deal here is that management has to realize there's something else going on. You have to refocus, if you're the manager of these teams, what's happening here. Most of the time, and I'm saying club level sport, but let's think widely here, we are much more focused on what actually happens on the injury days. We look at injury days as the biggest problem and the biggest cost, and they are, but they are also not the majority of days in the calendar for any one player. Most players are not injured most of the time. Now, here's the crux to making this work. You need to refocus resources on the non-injured days. If you want to extend the number of non-injured days, you need to focus resources there instead of just putting out fires on the injury days. And this is what these self-resilience tools are doing to players. They are allowing them to stay resilient and expand the number of days they're actually not injured. And players do engage with this. They want to do it. They like doing it. It's kind of fun for them. And at the end of the season, what you actually see in these clubs that do it is lower injury rates. So what does that mean for you and me, and why we're here today? Well, let's say public health systems are actually a sports club. They're called Club Public Health. That would mean that they are basically a club with the biggest, unhealthiest, worst prepared team of haphazard players you can imagine. And they have a very small medical team resource, right? We know that at Club Public Health, we are broke, we're dysfunctional, management is screaming about the injury lists, and the medical team is under stress and kind of lost as to what to do with the resources they have. It's not going to stretch to everything. So why doesn't Club Public Health do what the other sports clubs have done and think a little differently? Delegate responsibility back to the players. That's you and me. That's my parents, my friends, my family. We're the players. We can take responsibility for what happens when we're not injured, and we can surely put a lot of effort into those non-injury days and getting more out of them. And that would leave more time for the medical team to focus on what the medical team does best, which is actually injury management, sickness management, disease management. That's what they do. So we could be taking care of our own health days, non-injury days, while the medical team there are for the worst days. But this is a major problem because our healthcare system is not set up to do that, right? We actually don't have a healthcare system at all. We haven't had for about 4,000 years. Now, that's a controversial statement that I could give another talk on, but about 4,000 years ago, we started paying more attention to disease and sickness, and we kind of stopped paying attention to the rest of the stuff that happens to us most days of our life. And that's what we need to get back to if we're going to solve this problem at this health club that we're in, right? Digital innovators out there, we absolutely need brilliant tools for the medical system. No doubts about it, to help us fix injuries, sickness, and disease. But we have a major crisis on our hands. We have a big injury list, and we are staring relegation in the face. So we have got to get every player on this team engaged in resilience training. And that is resilience for the life we lead, for the life you and I have. How am I going to stay more healthy this year than unhealthy? How am I going to make sure that by the time I'm 70, I'm still able to bend down and pick things off the floor, carry the pan off the stove, not fall over when I go down the stairs? How am I going to be resilient to those kind of injuries? And they start now. They start by monitoring, having a baseline. So it gets adjusted maybe every 5 years. Maybe we have to look at this every few years and redo our baseline checks, redo our self-checking, our self-exercises, our self-corrections, get ourselves in a position where we are as resilient as we can be, where we have many more healthy days on our calendar than unhealthy, and let our medical system do what it does best right now, and that's actually sickness and illness, disease management, really. I think it's totally feasible. I think the answer lies in digital solutions. I think we just have to shift our focus to bring as much attention to non-sick as sick days and non-sick solutions as sick solutions. And I think you're the people to do it. I would really like to bring Club Public Health out of the relegation zone and up a league or two, and I know we need your help to do it. And that is my basic lessons from the locker rooms of sport. I hope that has entertained you at least for 15 minutes, if not given everybody some food for thought. And I do want to say a Good luck to everybody who's in this today, all the teams presenting. Have a lot of fun out there, learn as much as you can out there, whether you are creating a digital health app for truly health days or digital sickness apps. I wish you all the best, and I really look forward to seeing what is coming today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Laura Johnson. That is certainly a healthy, very healthy start to our day. Ageism, career moves, and healthcare innovation. What next in this field? Let's have a conversation with our next expert insight, the co-founder and COO of Doctomatic, Carmen Rios.
Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're connecting from today. I am honored to be here before you. Thank you, EIT Health, for having me on board. And congratulations to the EIT Health Catapult participants for enriching our lives with your contributions. Better outcomes in healthcare happen because of you and communities like EIT Health, which make it possible. My name is Carmen Rios. I'm a true product of the European Union, daughter of a British lady and a Spanish gentleman. I'm a proud EIT Health mentor and currently the co-founder of Doctomatic, a device and condition agnostic for remote patient monitoring. EIT Health has proven to be an amazing community, which I can only encourage you to be a member of if you haven't done so yet. I would like to kick off today telling you a little story to take you through what are some of my key messages for you today. Ageism, career moves, and healthcare innovation. Ageism. I'm 44 years old, and 3 years ago, I was totally unaware of what digital health was and its impact. It is never too late. This is me as a young girl, sitting in the lawn of my grandparents in Lincolnshire. At this point in time, I wanted to become a doctor. Unfortunately, I had a teacher who told me I was not good at maths and sciences. And shame on me, I believed him. Early education is fundamental in shaping who we are and who we become. And we all need to be aware of this with our younger ones. We all have little children or younger peers who look up to us in search of a role model. And in these days where the conversation is becoming broader and broader in regards to diversity, this couldn't be more relevant. I, as a child, had very few role models that I could look up to in regards to a high impact career in business. Did I have strong figures around me? Certainly. But those who helped me shape my career and be here with you today were men who gave me a seat at the table. To them, I am very grateful for the opportunity. So why am I telling you this? I would love for you all listening to me here today to gain more awareness on how you speak to yourself and others, and encourage you to try to become the role model to those who are actually looking up on you. I'm here today not only for my younger peers, but also for my young nieces, Irene, Carla, and Alba, and nephew, Daniel. And let me share this quote, which reached to me just yesterday. You can't be who you can't see. When we think about what it is to be connected, we think about memory, we think about history, we think about storytelling. All of these words that we hear, literacy, inclusion, diversity, are all words for connection. When I say to people, why do we need to have different diverse books? It's not because necessarily everybody needs to see themselves reflected in every book, but because we need that sense of connection. We need to live in a global sense. These are words by Marion Wright Edelman. You can't be what you can't see. Let us all reinforce the power of diversity. I wanted to discuss diversity in all of its shapes and forms and how it impacts our careers. As an example, I have an industry friend who I admire. He is over 50 years old, a doctor, highly prepared, has always worked in technology and innovation. However, because this person is 50 plus, they're struggling to find a new position. Diversity is also bringing people on board with completely different levels of maturity. Not only race, gender equity, and LGBTB. As we all know, the tendency in innovation is of younger teens. However, this is not the case at Dr. Matic, where we're all 40 plus. Bring those healthcare workers onto your technology companies. Don't even hesitate about doing so. Bring patients also. And ensure the conversation is focused on them and their pain points. Together, we can all make a difference. Again, I'm telling you this with only 3 years of experience in the healthcare industry. I moved to healthcare 3 years ago, motivated by the loss of my business partner to cancer. And I'm here today because I want social impact to be the driver of what I deliver. And you're probably asking yourselves, what value do I add? Believe it or not, the skill sets I acquired in the media, ad tech and gaming and gambling industries are proving to be of value to the companies that I've been involved with in healthcare. Limbix, who leads digital therapeutics to treat adolescent depression, and now Dr. Matic, a device and condition agnostic remote patient monitoring solution, of which I am a co-founder. It's never too late to start. And as my good friend and mentor Anna says, there are 2 days where you can plant a tree. One was 20 years ago, the other one is today. Which seed are you going to plant today? And here we are, proud citizens of a high-tech 21st century who have taken a blow by a small virus, which has made the most of the globalization to travel the world effortlessly for free. It was only 2007 when Steve Jobs presented the first iPhone. Mainstream internet and smartphones have allowed us to manage this battle a little better than we would have done without. So remote working has become a standard, even in those companies who were totally against it. It took UBS Switzerland 3 entire days to arrange for remote working, which before March 2020 had been deemed impossible. Suddenly, compliance was handled at the speed of light. What a miracle. Logistics have delivered it in the same agile way and allowed us to stay stocked up without moving from our homes during lockdown. We've been able to combine the perfect balance between humanity and technology to our benefit. So why is healthcare delayed when it has become clear to us that digital healthcare is here to stay? Who in this room has doubts that it's a vital need which has been delivered in a rush with little means and has struggled with structures that our restrictive regulatory environments aren't prepared for? The healthcare workforce have embraced new ways of delivering their reach, ensuring it was extended as far as possible, increasing the quality of life of their patient populations. It's now that we're starting to see the light of this tunnel, that it has also become clear to us that this is not the last pandemic. And in a European context, where most of the population have internet access, we have to ensure healthcare is delivered differently. The same way commerce, logistics, scientific research, and many other industries have already understood. Let's embrace technology and work for unified, flexible regulatory frameworks that are enablers to the work we deliver. It's also a time where investment is growing in digital health at paces never seen before. The forecast for this year is for it to double the one in 2020, which already doubled 2019. Fear of missing out is here to stay for a while, which is very good news for all of us present here. Health hubs, incubators and accelerators galore, investors who had never even considered healthcare before this moment. It's the moment where technology and medicine are to be wed for the greater good. The moment where patients are going to have more say than ever before and become for once and all the real center of attention. It's the time where technology is here to help us break the limits of accessibility, transparency, and the quality of healthcare, exactly what citizens truly deserve. It's the time to ensure all players involved have the necessary tools so that the next pandemic doesn't send us back to the 16th century. Hello, regulators. And if I may quote EIT Health Spain Managing Director Cristina Bescos in a recent article, healthcare will either be digital or it won't be. And I'm here hoping to encourage you to plant that tree today and let those after you benefit from the reaps in 20 years. It is never too late to start again. Embrace your local communities. They're here to build the future. And I'm here today as a small warrior of mine. Please join me. I can assure you it's a tough but fun ride. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Carmen, for this very compelling conversation. We need that sense of connection, and it's never too late. So go to our networking platform to make those connections for meetings with investors, startups, delegates. And of course, the other place to connect is at hashtag EITH Catapult. Now, we're going to be taking a break and meeting again at 10:30. And 10:30 is going to be a very important moment. It's going to be the first run of our pitches from our 12 digital health startups, the top startups in Europe. That is their moment to shine. So we see you later at 10:30. Have a good break.